Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. A little bit of Bourbon County up in this piece in the form of the, 2022 30th anniversary Bourbon County Stout. If you watch my channel, you know I dig me some Bourbon County. I think they're really fantastically done barrel-aged stouts. And the base barrel-aged stout is probably one of the better, if not the best value for the money when it comes to barrel-aged stouts as far as what you're getting versus, what you're paying. I could typically get the base variant and multiple vintages of them out by me here in New Jersey. I could typically get them for 11, 12, 13 bucks a bottle. Always game for that. I will typically have some of those kind of sitting in the fridge, ready to roll whenever I want. But the, kind of boutique-y variants tend to be a little bit pricey for me, but I'm lucky enough that I live in New Jersey that they tend to kind of fall in price from time to time. A lot of the stuff that's cost 30 ends up being 20, and then the 40s ends up being 30s, yada, yada, yada. I was at a spot, I saw this on a shelf for 34 bucks, and I was like, oh, I think this thing was like way more expensive. I'll pick it up. I think it ended up, its MSRP when it originally came out was probably closer to 40, so it wasn't like I was saving a ton of money, but I picked it up anyway. I am in the mood for something big. Here we go. What do we have on here? It says, in collaboration with Knob Creek, Booker's, Bakers, and Basil Hayden, with our friends, crafted it in celebration of 30 years of original Bourbon barrel-aged stout. I love the pomp of the box and everything, so, kind of feel like you're getting bang for your buck when you see stuff like this. There is story time in the back. I'm going to go like this. If you all want to pause it and read it, I'll summarize here. We thought never make it again after 30 years. We're still funding every year crafting Bourbon County brand stout more fulfilling than the last. Each year, Bourbon County brand stout is a snapshot of time with a remarkable journey from oak to stave. Cheers to all understand and appreciate this journey. Cheers to an incredible 30 years. Done and done. Yeah, outside of that, it is a fantastic. Their branding is just amazing. Like the box they do, the whole kit and caboodle. How do I get this open? I do not know. Okay, I think this back piece feels like it should just come separate. Let's just rip it. We're gonna throw it away anyway. There we go. There we go. Brute force it whenever you can. And there's more. There's even more on this little panel here. So I will do that in case y'all want to pause and read all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it goes through, I think, a bunch of the spirit stuff. I would talk about, the whiskey and whatnot, but I don't know enough about the whiskey to really even talk about it. We get a little tab here. This I will read because there's a manageable amount of text on it. We have here, it's 36% Booker's, 33% Knob Creek, 17 Basil Hayden, 14% Baker's Bourbon. So you can read that there. Bourbon County, year 2022 on the tag. Classic bottle, classic stylings. Stout age and in a blend of Basil Hayden, Booker's, Baker's, and Knob Creek Bourbon barrels, 2022. 14.4% for those keeping score at home. And this went into the bottle July 27th. Yeah, 30th anniversary stout. I've talked ad nauseum how much I like the Bourbon County brand branding, the bottle, the whole design. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Beautiful hiss on that. So, getting kind of excited. We got a little bit of a distressed, deteriorated cap, which gets me a little hot and bothered, to be perfectly honest with you. Let's see where the sucker goes. Give it a rough pour. You can see shit just shooting out of it. So I pour like a maniac. Get a cap on this sucker to retain what carbonation we do have. Ooh, I'm gonna have to go. I have two different kind of caps here. One is soft and one is hard. And the soft ones pop out like that. You kind of have to resort to the hard one. Soft versus hard. Listen, I'm almost 50. That's what we do. Anyway, so yeah, bottle-wise, the basic to this or whatever, again, AB InBev, you can take your kind of whatever, they suck, blah, blah, blah. I think this is one of the prettiest well-done bottles in the history of beer. Here we go. As far as the beer goes, I mean, it looks a part of a nice, beautiful stout. Had a head on it. I talk way too much, dissipated. Give it a whirl on this big cognac glass, and it comes back with spades. You can see just nice soft carbonation, but at the same time, it has this nice richness to it, this thickness to it. Can't really glean any kind of light through it. If I hold it up to my big, huge lights I have up here, and it has this kind of dark head to it. But it has this, it's like a marriage between orange and red. It's a quite a bit different color than you typically expect, or what you typically get from a Bourbon County base stout. So there's something a little bit different to it, which is nice to see. But it looks to all the part of a big stout. Nice legs on it. Let's see if we can get a nose. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say this is like, oh my god, this is an otherworldly stout that is much, much different than what Bourbon County can bring. There's a lot of the same notes here. There's a lot of big roasted malts and that big spirit component, the nice barrel char, all the things you typically expect when it comes to a nice Bourbon County stout. But there is a roundness to it. There is this kind of more homogenized, more cohesive kind of effort from all the bits and pieces of what you find in the beer that makes it come off a little bit more smoother, a little bit more kind of just slicker, for the lack of a better term, on the nose. Now, is that the beer? Probably. Is it time? Probably too. There's a combination of things going on. You're talking about 2 years aged Bourbon County. It's got to start to round out a little bit. But I think there is this kind of softness, and by softness I mean this kind of rounded edge, a little bit more acceptable, not as sharp, not as jarring kind of characteristic to it that maybe all those fancy bourbons brought to the table. I think it's time more than anything. If you're going to sit here and hold a gun in my head and be like, what's more important, time in a barrel or the spirit? Probably going to say more time in the barrel than spirit. Not that, you put it in a Malort barrel. Probably not going to end up all that well. No hate on Malort. But I think the time spent in the barrels leaves a greater impression on the beer than the actual spirit you throw it into. But it smells really pretty, really nice. It smells like Bourbon County through and through. Just a little bit more refinement there. A little bit more just richness, softness, refinement. Again, that's the probably word I'd go back to more often than not. That makes me think it's going to taste pretty damn awesome. Yeah. As far as what I'm actually smelling, I mean, it is a combination of a rich Russian Imperial Stout, which pretty much all these big barrel-aged stouts are. This nice big roasted malt, but it's tempered, it's softened on the edges. You get this big rich fruitiness from the spirit here. Again, classic bourbon, kind of reddish fruit cherry, but without being overly sweet. And then you have this really beautiful, which really makes barrel-aged beers for me, this barrel char, barrel, vanilla, barrel, wood combinations. You get those oak tannins with the vanilla, you get a barrel char with chocolate, and you get that nice kind of coconut kind of combination that you typically want from a barrel-aged beer, but really what sets like elite S-tier barrel-aged beers away from just basic, we threw it in a barrel for 6 months kind of thing. You get that just richness. And like I talked about on the nose, which we're still on, there's a cohesiveness here. Everything smells like it's connected. Everything smells like it's kind of, nice and cohesive. Let's dive in. Cheers. That's good, man. I mean, the vanilla coconut thing here, for me, is really what kind of makes this like a separator from what you typically get from Bourbon County Stout. It's Bourbon County Stout. Like, think about the base. It is that. Has its DNA written inside of it. The way the beer comes off, that rich, bittering, roasted malt, hoppy Imperial Stout. That Russian Imperial Stout base that is just the essence of what Bourbon County is. And what, again, I'll say, what really, really well done Imperial Stouts are, because you need that little bit of causticness, that bitterness, that roasty toastiness kind of balance off a bit of that huge amount of sweetness you get from the spirit barrel and time. It is Bourbon County through and through. Even the spirit portion of the show, while maybe a more nuanced spirit drinking, and sit here and kind of pick apart what's Booker's, what's this, what's that. For me, there is a little bit of kind of like, oh, there's something going on here, but I don't really know kind of thing going on. But it's not like an overt separation from this and the base. It is a twofold thing. One, it's a smoothness factor. And again, we can attribute a little bit of that, or a decent amount of that, to time. I still think it has to do with a little bit of the spirit barrel and how they process this beer. But really, it's the barrel char that really separates this beer from the base. It is this combination of vanilla coconut that really kind of rears its head, that makes itself way more kind of prominent and omnipresent, based off of the base, that makes this beer that much better. Is it twice the amount better? Actually, more than that. It's up for debate. It's a treat for me, as somebody who buys maybe one of these variants a year when it's on deep discount, or I think it's on deep discount. Sure, I'm fine with it. And there is a whiskey, a spirit, a bourbon expression here that I think is quite a bit more prominent. And I want to make the distinction here that's quite a bit more prominent from a flavor standpoint, not from a heat or whatever. There is a distinctive kind of spirit component to this that I think is separate from what you typically get from the base Bourbon County Sound. So I'm maybe kind of shortchanging it just a little bit. But if you take that spirit component, you combine it with that barrel component, that big oaky vanilla, at a lesser extent coconut, but it's oaky vanilla coconut kind of combination. You kind of get what you're paying for here. You get the difference between this and the base stout. And I dig it, man. Listen, $35. Am I going to buy this on the reg? No. $35 as a one-off. Maybe I'm going to a party. I can buy these all over New Jersey. They just sit around all over the place for varying prices. I typically see 40, so I saw this more like 35. So I was like, yeah, I'll take a flyer on it as a treat in the new year. It is really, really tasty, but it's that internal battle of whether this is markedly different than the base. It is different. There's more to it. There's something elevated to it, but it's that exponential cost that really ends up being the kind of internal battle you have. It's like the Bugatti Veyron. You know what I mean? Like, I'm reaching here for analogies, but you know, the whole shtick, and if you're a big fan of old school Top Gear, it's not so much that the Bugatti Veyron, it was the fastest car. It's probably been surpassed. I'm going probably 10 years in the past in my brain, but it's not so much that it was the fastest car. It was the fastest car because going from 1 to 200 in a car is relatively easily attainable. Some engineer is going to watch this and flip out on me. But going from 200 to 213 miles per hour is hard. And it's one of those things where you think about it and you're like, okay, you literally went 200 miles per hour. You want to go 13 miles per hour faster. It can't be harder. You know, that it's crazy. 13 miles per hour versus 200. But it's the way the physics work on Earth, the way physics work in the universe. Just getting faster and faster and faster. That extra 1 mile might be per hour, might be cost you way more than everything you spent up until that point. And that's kind of where these beers kind of settle in for me, is that Bourbon County Stout is such a fantastic base stout that it's like these variants are really, really good. And I'm not sitting here saying this beer is on par or the same as the base. I think it's a better beer, but it's worth more than twice the amount. That's where I think two things come into play. Honesty. and wealth. If you're a white collar person that has exponential resources and you wouldn't blink an eye at a $15 beer, as let alone a $200 beer or anything in between, and this is nothing for you. You just go, oh, I'll just buy the better one. I don't care. I don't think that's where most beer drinkers exist and revolve in the earth, and I think that comes into play for a lot of people. Me too. You know what I mean? Like, I want delicious beer. I want things that taste fantastic. I want to drink the best, but in today's world, so many different people in play, so many different people got into beer, and so many different people elevate beer to a status that might be unattainable for a lot of different people. Now, am I saying $35 is not attainable for most people? No. But as far as beer goes, I think it's quite expensive. You buy a $100 bottle of liquor, you're like, that's way more expensive, but it's not carbonated, it'll last forever. There's a permanency to that. This beer you open, you drink. Sure, you might get a couple days out of it, throw a cork in it, you're good to go. And that's where these beers kind of open a conversation about where your personal boundaries lie when it comes to like what you're willing to pay for these kind of experiences. Because if we sit here and step back and look at beer and breweries and the industry as a whole, through some pretty honest glasses, it's craft beer's on the downswing. Breweries are closing at an alarming rate. Bourbon barrel aged beers are very expensive and extensive to make, so maybe they are worth this kind of coin. I don't know. It's just there's something here that is interesting. It's like where it blurs the line between like white collar, blue collar, like what you want to spend and stuff like that. But let's save that for another conversation. Just talk about this beer in general. It's fantastic, honestly. What it's giving me, and how it's giving to me, which is probably more important. It's giving me robust flavors. Those rich roasted malts, those beautiful layers of chocolate from the actual beer itself. That bit of roasty, toasty, slightly astringent kind of like bittering maltiness, which is absolutely needed to counterbalance everything else that comes with this beer, which is that sweet spirit, which has multiple levels to it. So it's like you can understand when they call out different spirits. I can't talk about the different spirits, but I can talk about, okay, I feel like there's something different going on here. And it probably has to do with the different barrels. And then when you get to the crux of the conversation, which is the actual barrel itself, when you're getting those gobs of vanilla, when you're getting those rich oak tannins, when you're getting that bit of coconut, you understand the difference between this and the other beer. It's just that, again, that conversation, whether that juice is worth that squeeze. And it's just a fantastic beer, man. Like straight up, we're in the beginning of 2025. We're 5 days in. Is this one of the better barrel-aged stouts I've had as of late? Yes. Mount Rushmore status? Yes. Especially for the new year, even going back. But we're talking about some of my favorite beers I reviewed. I just posted my favorites of 2024. This is going to go on the shelf. We're going to talk about this at the end of the year. Yeah, it's fantastically done. It just really comes down to me for the price point. You give this to me at plus 20, plus like 22, 25. I think I'm gung-ho on this. I think I'm like, yeah, I'll buy this every now and then. 35, 40 MSRP, which I think is what I originally came out with. I get it. When it first comes out, you want to have it, you buy it. But I don't know. As a one-off experience, I'm cool with it. But for me, beer is like buy 5, age a bunch, see how they age, that kind of thing. Or buy and share, or buy and give away, that kind of thing. That's where it gets a little bit harder. But in the grand scheme of things, absolutely fantastic beer. Mount Rushmore status, barrel-aged stout. Would I buy again? Yes. Especially in New Jersey. Probably end up being cheaper in a couple of years. I'm curious to see where it lands. We'll see where it goes from there. Done and done. So yes, Mount Rushmore status, value and availability. $35 off the shelf and leave you with. If you like what we like this, if you like barrel aged stouts, honestly, I think if you're watching this video, you've either had this or are curious. So, if you have the means, enjoy. If you don't, find somebody that does and is a good person. So there you go. Reviewing the books. Hopefully you enjoyed. Massive Beers, if you want to check me out in the social media stuff. Beer Massive. Podcasting stuff. We still do that every now and then. And Bourbon County. Have you had their beers? Have you had a bunch of their beers? Different variants. All the variants. This variant. All that fun stuff down there. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of aged beer and Pompey beer. Hope to see you next time. Cheers, y'all.